I want to talk about selling Bitcoin to fill the gap. Selling Bitcoin to fill the gap. Whether the gap is coming from, the gap can come from a lot of places. And I've talked to a lot of you from the channel now. The gap comes from like living outside your means or living above what your current income supports, pairing that with Bitcoin, pairing that with selling Bitcoin, living a lifestyle that's a little bit above where your current income supports, comes from taking a sabbatical to just be a parent. It comes from early retirement or financial independence. If you realize, like, you go back and rework the numbers and you realize that, you know, you're good. Like, you're actually good. I had this in college. I studied economics, and there's one day I was sitting in econometrics, which is just really hard math, and couldn't understand the teacher very good, like kind of strong accent, really hard math. And I just went back to my dorm room and I recalculated my credits and just switched from economics to business admin and graduated the semester early. It's that. That's the example of a gap. Like, you went back and you realized, like, hey, wait a minute. Like, I actually am good. Like, I'm actually good. But in that downshifting or in that shifting of gears, sometimes there's a gap that exists. You know, as you're unwinding old bills, you're unwinding old subscriptions, you're finishing paying off a car, you're doing whatever you're doing. Because when you have, like, quote unquote steady job, you do things, your personal finances are different depending on your income. Obviously, that's an understatement. But what's not talked about enough, what is not talked about enough at all, is how to create income off of investments. Like, the debasement trade right now is like really popular, right? There's like articles being written about it. Gold's blowing out. Bitcoin just touched all-time highs. You were right. Like, you freaking did it. In case no one's told you, like, you crushed it. You crushed it and did it. And it's not talked about enough that you did it. The changing of gears is not going to, like, no one's going to tap you on the shoulder and tell you to do that. It's gonna, and if they do, first off, that never happens. Like, there's never like a clean thing. And then it's always a little bit awkward to like stumble into a new phase. And so the gap, like selling, this is part of why the whole never sell Bitcoin personal and finance advice was bad, was really, really bad and not helpful at all. Just not helpful at all. I think the fact that that exists as like even a joke or like a thing of like never sell is just not, it's not good. It's not good for two reasons. It's not good for you as an individual because it doesn't make sense from a personal finance perspective. And then it's also not good from like a societal perspective either, because it creates this weird gap where there's like a crutch on the like why Bitcoin is good for the world talking point. And I've recognized the more that I've like talked to thousands and thousands of people about Bitcoin, like I realize that I overuse like fix the money, fix the world. I overuse that as like a reason why you should care, as a hook. I overuse that part. I'm better at talking about that, or like, yeah, so I've used that as a hook for so long that my skills of talking about the actual just like straight up financial benefit of like why functionally Bitcoin was the best performing asset of the last 10 years were not as developed. And a lot of that was, I think, because of just, yeah, a lot the leading voices saying never sell, which is weird and bizarre. And so I think that's also what keeps it like, that's what keeps crypto people underexposed to the core story of Bitcoin. And that's what keeps keep talking about the like traditional finance, like financially independent, retire early, dividend investor type people. That's what keeps them underexposed to Bitcoin. Because the leading personal finance voices, well, first off, I don't think anyone ever considered themselves a personal finance voice in Bitcoin, which I think was a mistake. Not that the community, I mean, there's no like quarterback of the community or whatever, but the fact that that hadn't like emerged yet let the like Bitcoiners ceded the financial expert ground like to the other voices. I don't think Bitcoin would have been demonized in the Dave Ramsey and the financial independent retire early movement, like that corner of YouTube. Bitcoin wouldn't have been seen as such a joke if we had hit that more head on earlier. Because it does make sense straight up without talking about the like philosophical moral side. And I love the philosophical moral side. I love talking about that side. I talk about how that like kept me investing for like a long portion of time when I wouldn't have been. So it's definitely important. It's just like, so now fast forwarding to today, I think popularizing this concept of like selling Bitcoin to fund the gap is winning. Like we're in the future. We are in the future. We're in the future of you can retire early. You can take a sabbatical. You can live above your means. You can live above your means. It's okay. It's okay. Because what's going to happen then is that the actual cultural vision of like what does it mean to be a Bitcoiner or whatever is going to shift. It's then going to shift to it being like a high what's the word? Brian Johnson uses it. Status. Like a high, like he talks about how health is high status. Being healthy means you're not addicted.
Basically, here's the thing. Bitcoin is high status, but for a long time, the people talking on the internet about Bitcoin were kind of just like just a certain demographic. Like you have these crypto channels that talk about crypto in terms of just day trading, like day trading and picking tickers, right? And then you have the like Bitcoin channels that accurately get Bitcoin being better than fiat money, but then they just tangential into kind of like old world politics sometimes, or they just skew so much towards like Wall Street institution type stuff that it's just not relevant to like the 35 to 55-year-old that's like that has that monthly gap. Or you just have the random like international content where it's like so many people on YouTube are commenting about like Bitcoin being better than real estate. They don't even live in the United States. They don't even understand how like a United States mortgage works at all. So I'm like, why are you even commenting on Bitcoin versus real estate in the United States? That doesn't even make any sense. So there isn't like and then because of all of that convolutedness and because of the interesting past that Bitcoin has had, the like regular personal finance channels have just been like slow to embrace it and slow to embrace it. And so it's everything has a reason. Like it's not surprising that like that's what happened. But that is what happened. And so this concept of like using Bitcoin to fill the gap hasn't gotten as much airtime, I think, as the amount of people that are actually doing that. And I think when that story gets out more, that selling Bitcoin can fill the gap when you're taking a sabbatical, early retirement, semi-retired, or just like trying to really expand your brain and expand your like standard of living at like a time when you're like raising toddlers or like raising kids or, really trying to stretch in like a positive way for that really like, dream vacation or something like that. Like I actually think Bitcoin gives you the ability to do that stuff the most like structurally out of any other personal finance way of doing it, especially when you pull in there's three buckets of money: physical USD, physical Bitcoin, and then USD credit. USD credit and Bitcoin act as kind of like a battery for your lifestyle and a battery for your income. And I think the whole thing of like working 30 years and then like drawing on your battery in like one big retirement, that idea, even outside of Bitcoin, has been being chipped away for a long time. But Bitcoin makes it even that much more concrete as kind of a way to actually functionally do that. And so you don't need me to say it. You don't need me to say it. I'm not saying it to like give you permission or whatever. I'm basically calling out that selling Bitcoin to fund the gap is a trend that's already happening.
Real quick, if you made it all the way to the end of the video, I think you would really enjoy being a channel member. It's a few bucks a month. You can cancel anytime. We're going to start doing members only live streams. And it's just a high signal you can send that the content is like hitting and you're interested in going deeper on Bitcoin personal finance. And so, yeah, I'm just gathering a crew of people that are down to learn from each other on how we're all, writing Bitcoin personal finance advice live and learning how to incorporate Bitcoin into our personal finances. Go ahead and click join right next to the subscribe button.